In this video, we're going to show you how to use the Stitch tool. The Stitch tool, located on the main toolbar, allows us to apply stitching to pattern pieces and internal elements. In VStitcher, we have two types of stitching, single and multi-stitch. Multi-stitch will be covered in a separate video. When stitching your garment, it may help to think of each pattern piece as a piece in a puzzle, and the Stitch tool solves how we connect each piece in the puzzle. Before we stitch, it's best to identify the edges and count how many edges we wish to stitch. Single stitch can be used if we want to stitch single edges together, while multi-stitch can be used if there are more than one edge on either side of a stitch. So how do we know how many edges there are? Let's have a closer look at this pattern in VStitcher. On each pattern piece, we can identify the edges by looking at the corner points. An edge is a line between two corner points. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 edges in total. If we have a corner point added here, it splits the line into two parts. Hence, it is now edge number 1 and number 2. You can easily remove a corner point by clicking on the corner point and unchecking corner point in the context view. For example, we would like to stitch these edges together. In this case, there is one edge here and one edge here, so we use a single stitch. If there were more than one edge, it would require multi-stitching. To stitch, we simply click on the first edge, then the second edge. We see a solid line and a pin appears on the edge to indicate that the stitch has been created. Great, let's apply this logic to a garment. Note that we have already arranged and prepared this file. We can stitch in the 2D window and the 3D window. Let's focus on stitching in the 3D window by expanding it. We ensure the cursor is in the 3D window, then press Tab. We recommend stitching in the 3D window as it is much easier to visualize the edges we need to stitch. In the 3D window, you can also see the corner points, notches, and the stitches when they are created. If there are edges that can't be seen clearly in the 3D window, then we can stitch in the 2D window. We need to identify the edges that require single stitch. For example, the shoulder edges. Note that a highlight color is displayed to show the edge we are hovering on. This helps us verify we've selected the correct edge or if we've accidentally clicked on an incorrect edge. When ready to start our stitch, we click the edge. Then we move to the second edge in the stitch. We hover our mouse over the edge, check that the highlight color matches the first edge, then click to select it. An icon is displayed on each stitched edge. If you have clicked on the wrong edge, you can simply deselect by clicking on the background or by clicking on the same edge again. If you have completed the stitch and notice that there is an error, you can delete the stitch and restitch again. To remove a stitch, we click the stitch icon, then press Delete on the context view or by clicking Delete on your keyboard. Note: if shape symmetry applies, the system automatically sews the symmetrical edges. Here's a tip. When working with complex garments, you can turn off the 3D stitch pins to have a clear view of the garment and its edges. To do so, we click on this button on the horizontal contextual menu to enable and disable the pins. And that's how we create a single stitch. Let's use the single stitch to complete the sewing on all the edges that require single stitch. We will continue stitching the edges which require multi-stitch in the next video. In this video, we've shown you how to sew a garment using the single stitch tool. For more information, check out the Browseware Help Center.